WKYC's Facebook Live. Time now for the Donovan Live Postgame Show. I'm Dave DiNatale alongside Jim Donovan. The Indians are in action right now down at Progressive Field. They lead the Cincinnati Reds 2-0 in the heading to the bottom half of the second. Jose Ramirez has hit his 26th homer of the year. But I need to talk to you about last night's game. That was absolutely mind-boggling how that ninth inning played itself out. The Indians go into the ninth inning, leading 4-0. All the momentum in the world after Trevor Bauer pitched to Jim. They bring in the closer, Cody Allen, who was just terrible, I might add. And then when Terry Francona wants to get somebody else up and throwing in the bullpen, a left-hander, they have, as they say in the movie, failure to communicate.
Yeah, it was a disaster. And sometimes you hope, and I'm sure Terry did, you hope that maybe even though there was nothing they could do once they called him in, and we're talking about Dan Otero rather than, Oliver Perez, once that happened, you still only need one out.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
The only problem is you got a right-hander facing a really good left-handed hitter.
Yes.
But you can say to yourself, if we get out of this thing, man, maybe nobody will notice.
Right. Yeah, maybe.
Okay?
Yeah. Maybe we'll get away with it, and
and
it
was a 3-2 pitch, and Votto did what Votto does a lot. He's a great hitter, and he put one in the gap, and they ended up losing the game, and they gave up 7 runs in the inning. Now there's a lot that went wrong in the inning. If Cody Allen does his job,
yes,
then we're not even talking about this. The game is over. But the sad part is, I think that I have watched Trevor Bauer pitch some great games, and last night will be one of the great ones that I've seen him pitch. I mean, he was dominant.
Yes.
Okay, 12 strikeouts, 8 innings, no runs, 3 hits. Wow, 111 pitches. Okay, I am a proponent. I am not a pitch count guy.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that Bauer's the kind of guy that he would like to go out and probably finish his own work. And I would have put him out there for one batter.
Yeah. And if he gets in trouble,
then I'll get him out.
You get him out.
Okay. But a lot of people say, hey, listen, a guy like Cody Allen, he wants to start an inning. Okay. Anyway, I would have liked to have seen Bauer. He looked as fresh as a daisy.
Yes.
I mean, he was throwing well. He had command of every pitch he wanted to throw. They weren't touching him. But he hands it over, and this is a problem for the Indians, this bullpen, let's face it. But, yeah, there was a miscommunication. It happens, and it happened at an awful time. Carl Willis thought that Tito said, get OT up
for
in the
Dan
bullpen.
Otero.
Dan Otero. Tito actually said, get OP up, meaning he wanted Perez up. That made sense, a left-handed pitcher to a left-handed batter. It didn't happen. They went right-handed to left-handed, and it burned them. And it's their worst loss of the year.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I thought that Saturday was going to be their worst loss to this point because, similarly, Corey Kluber had pitched very well, and the bullpen blew that game.
Yeah, you're right.
And you sit there. I think losses like those, and I'm not, go crazy after one game guy. Baseball's a long season. But when you have a bullpen, a sick bullpen can absolutely wreck the morale of a team. We've seen that here in Cleveland too many times with teams that can hit or have teams that have very good starting pitching, what the Indians obviously do. This is a weak division. The Indians are going to win the AL Central. I truly believe that no matter what happens. But Jimmy, they've got to solve this bullpen problem between now and the start of the postseason. They've just really now in the trade deadline.
Yeah,
really.
And I think they will, Dino. I think that, but there are some minefields out there. I don't think they can do anything dramatic right now until the trading deadline. Like, I don't think anyone's really going to. I mean, they can, but I don't think anyone's really going to do the hardcore business until probably the day before the trading deadline or right before the trading deadline on the actual day of it, which is 4 o'clock, the deadline on July 31st. So, I think right now they're fiddling and diddling and trying to get guys here and there, anything they can do to try and put a Band-Aid over it right now. But there are no signs of Andrew Miller yet, okay? And there's no designation of when he's going to come back yet. I mean, it seems to keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed. And, of course, he was hurt a lot in this type of injury last year, too. And so, that's a concern. But the other thing is, I think that they have to go out and get it. Now, which the only deal they're being talked about the most right now is that they're involved in the Manny Machado deal, and I don't think he could get Joey Votto out.
No.
Okay, I mean, I think, and plus, that's a complicated deal. I mean, I don't understand why they're in that deal.
Well,
why are they in that deal?
Initially,
here's a guy that wants to play shortstop.
Yes.
They have one of the best young shortstops in baseball.
Yes.
And there are a lot of good young shortstops in baseball right now, and he's definitely right there as one of them. I mean, so you're not going to move him. He has said he doesn't want to play third base, which he's played a lot of in Baltimore, and that's why he wants to leave Baltimore anyway. And you could, if you got him, you're going to give up a great pitching young talent. You're going to either give up Beaver or this other kid that they have, McKenzie, and they don't want to do that.
Not for guys.
So
I
don't know why they're involved. Is it
here's why they're
like we
involved.
take them so nobody else gets them?
No, I think there's something
or they
to
need
that.
A bat.
There's something to that from the we don't want the I remember the Indians and Yankees.
Well, that's how the Yankees and Red Sox always do it.
We
don't need them, but we don't want the Red Sox to get them, so we'll get them.
Yeah, I think Jason Kipnis's .216 average, and let's be honest with Jason. He plays a mediocre to less than mediocre defense at second base. He does.
Yes, I
don't mean to be unkind, but if Jason's not hitting .275, hitting 20 to 25 homers, driving in about 80 runs a year, well, then the Indians feel like, well, look, this isn't going to work for us. I think ideally the thought was, okay, we have Machado at third, Lindor at short, Ramirez at second. Try to beat that, with Alonso at first base. Try to beat that power. And Machado's not a great defensive player, but he's solid. And you'd have that kind of a power infield. But to that point, I don't think, unless you could get him for a less than high value pitching prospect, I wouldn't do it. Not for a guy that your chances of keeping him after this year are slim and none. I think if you're going to make a trade that involves prospects like they did with Andrew Miller and they traded Clint Frazier, you got to get a guy that's going to be here for a couple of years.
Yeah, you have to have control of the person that you're going to bring in. Now he's going to be traded.
Yeah, I think that's
he could go to the Yankees. He could go to the Dodgers. He could go to someone else. He could go to Milwaukee.
I think Milwaukee's a dark horse.
And we definitely need a bullpen guy.
Yes, I think they need a bullpen guy.
There's no miracle guy
they're
going to find at this point in time, and suddenly they're going to fix all the problems in the bullpen. Now I will say this: you touched on this, and that is a bullpen can kill you.
Yeah,
it killed the Detroit Tigers. I'm sure Jim Leyland thought that he would at least win one World Series with those Tiger teams that he had. He had Verlander, he had Scherzer, he had Anibal Sanchez, he had other guys, but he had no bullpen.
Yeah, he had Cabrera as a Triple Crown best hitter in baseball.
He had Victor Martinez. I mean, they had a lot of things going for them.
Yeah.
Okay, they had Ian Kinsler. I mean, they got the kid Iglesias. To play shortstop for them. They were very, very good, but that bullpen killed them because they couldn't hold leads. And on the other side of that, what it forced them to do is make their starters go deeper into games. So suddenly Verlander's probably going an inning to 2 innings longer than he should have. Scherzer was doing the same thing. And it hurt their starters by the time the postseason began. And we've had a little bit of a taste of that here when Kluber isn't exactly the Kluber that we want to be in the playoffs because he's pitched too many innings. And it kills you. So a bullpen can really kill you.
Yeah.
If you don't have it.
If you don't have it. Frank has asked a really good question here on Facebook. If the Indians, we get into the ninth inning, and Terry Francona, as he's watched Dan Otero jog out into the game, the question from Frank is, if they realize the mistake, could they not still call for Perez? Let Otero throw ball 1 or ball 2, and then go to the bullpen and call for Perez, because you still have to you still get that minimum time to get warmed up from the time you're in the pen to when you walk out, you go to the mound, you get your warm-up tosses. You get 8. They could have done that, Frank. They absolutely could have done that.
Or they could have faked it a little bit and said that Otero was injured in some way.
Yeah.
And then you would have gotten Perez to come in, and he gets as long as he
got a full,
needs
he got a full
to
boat.
warm up. Yes, Frank.
Yeah, so they could have done that. They could have done that.
We're honest. We're honest Indians here, and we're not going to play it that way, obviously.
It's interesting. Back to the trade deadline and things of that nature.
Let me just halt you for a second. But the proximity that Dino and I are at right now, the distance between the two of us, okay, that is the distance that Carl Willis and Tito are in the dugout for 9 innings, okay?
Yeah.
They are like this close, other than when Tito goes for the reach for the double bubble.
Yes.
Okay, but he comes back, and this is how close they are, which I still don't understand. 2 things. How does it happen? And second of all, Carl Willis has been around the block many times. He wouldn't have said to Tito, "Are you sure you want Otero? They have left-handed hitters coming in." It wasn't only Votto. They had other left-handers.
Yes.
You wouldn't communicate that way and say, "Hey, Tito, maybe you've had a little bit too much double bubble tonight. Are you sure you want Otero?" Because they have left-handed batters. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Did I hear you right?
Yeah.
Right?
I don't get that. I don't get it. Go ahead. Back to the book.
I don't. I absolutely. Still, that last night, and then to hear Francona's explanation, I'm like, boy, that every time I think I'm surprised at something I see in baseball. By the way, did you see how the Oakland A's Houston Astros game ended last night with our buddy Lucroy misplaying a ball basically at the plate and then throwing a ball like down the right field line?
Yeah, and it scraped the guy's helmet and then went out into right field and they lost. I did. Really, what happened last night was a deleted scene in the movie Bull Durham. I mean, that's a deleted scene in that movie. I mean, that shouldn't happen.
No.
But it does happen. And it happened, and they got burned. If Otero gets Votto out, right?
Nobody's the wiser.
Nobody's the wiser. They can kind of go into the clubhouse and say, "Hey, what the heck happened there?" I mean, at least we got away with it. But they didn't get away with it. It's like in Little League Baseball, if you're coaching your kids' team, all right, and the rule is you got to play everybody in the game.
Yes.
Every kid's got to play 2 innings and get up once.
That's right.
Let's say that's the rule, okay? And you say, "I'm going to put Dino in the game, and I'm going to stick him out in right field because nobody's going to hit a ball.
Nobody will hit one out to me.
They haven't gotten near right field all game long." And I put him out in right field. Son of a gun, the first guy up hits a ball out to right field. They find you, and that's what happened. That's what happened to Terry Francona last night.
Baseball law.
Yep.
It always finds you. There's no place to hide. We've been talking about the name Francisco Mejia. He's one of the Indians, if not the top. He's their top offensive, the top hitting prospect. He's at AAA. He's had a couple of outings here in the majors. He is playing in the AAA All-Star game tonight.
Oh.
He is starting in right field.
There you go.
So it leads me to believe maybe people have maybe gotten into him a little bit, saying, "Look, your heart might be a catcher, but your quickest path to the majors right now might be at right field." And oh, by the way, other teams are going to be watching. And I mean, when the Indians are on the phone with these teams, I mean, people are talking pitching, so they're talking Bieber, they're talking McKenzie, they're talking Plutko, and then they're talking Mejia. I mean, it's the way it goes. We want your best prospects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I hope they don't give them up.
I hope
really
not either.
Don't. I hope they don't give them up. Somehow you've got to work around this without. Now, it probably is going to cost them. It's going to cost them something. Okay, but if they're really your big time prospects. You have to wonder the value of it short term versus the value of it long term. Does it come back and haunt you because you gave the guy away and you just have somebody on a short term type situation? Or, like you say, I mean, the Andrew Miller trade is really a great trade now.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
a great trade. Frazier has not been the player that they thought he was going to be. He's had a serious concussion problem that he hasn't been able to come back from. And he hasn't played. And then he bumped into a very, very plentiful Yankee outfield because that's when Judge came and then Stanton came and then all these other players came to no room for him.
Yeah, there's already talk that Frazier will be part of a trade package for Machado or for somebody else because the Yankees are also looking for starting pitching at the trade deadline. Frazier's name's already being brought up. If you look at the 2 biggest trades the Indians have made in the Chris Antonetti era.
Okay.
I would say one is Andrew Miller trade, and the other one is the Ubaldo Jimenez trade, which was back in 2011. But in both cases, top prospects were involved, but the player that the Indians got back in return was a player that was going to be here for a couple of years. Jimenez ended up being here the rest of 2011, all 2012, and all of 2013, and finally it was 2013 when he had the big year. Once Terry Francona and Mickey Callaway got a chance to work with him. And then in Miller's case, he's the MVP of the 2016 ALCS and is a huge part of the Indians making the World Series run. He's here for 2017. He's here for 2018. So
you had control of him.
You have control.
Yeah.
I just, for a guy like Manny Machado or a guy like Adam Jones, if the Indians are looking for an outfielder, you're not. There's no way in the world I think Chris Antonetti will give up a big piece like that for somebody who they don't have control over past 2018. I just don't see it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And I agree with that. And so that's why you have to really assess, and I know the Indians are looking at this situation because I think it is a little bit easier for the Indians to look past the division race.
Yes.
Okay? Because the Indians aren't going to be a wild card. Okay? They're going to be a division champion. They're going to win it. I mean, one of the teams in the East, Red Sox or Yankees, one of them is going to be a wild card team.
Right.
One of them is going to play in a one-game showdown elimination game.
And same thing in the National League, in the American League West. Let's say Houston will win the division, but between Seattle and Oakland,
Yeah. So I mean, but you have to assess. And we've said this a couple of times on this show that we do. Can we beat Houston, Red Sox, Yankees? Can we beat them in a series? And what do we need to do that?
Right.
And is it worth draining our farm system to do it? Do we really think legitimately we have a shot to beat them? Because I don't think you have to worry about anything else. I think you can be playoff focus right now in the Indians front office and what it takes to win in the playoffs. And you don't want to be like you were last year.
No.
You can have a 22-game winning streak, and it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, and then all of a sudden you go up 2-0. And it's even better.
That's great.
And you're getting everybody lined up for the ALCS. The next thing, you're in a 5th game, and Didi Gregorius is hitting 2 home runs on you, and you're losing.
And the season's over. All of a sudden, you're like, we're done.
Yeah, you can't have that happen.
Chris says, do you guys expect a move to happen before the All-Star break for the Indians this weekend? I can't imagine the Tribe wanting to sit on their hands too long before the big-name relievers are off the table. Traditionally, you don't really start to see the big trades happen until a couple of days before the break, or at the deadline, or on deadline day itself. I do remember the Indians traded CC Sabathia to Milwaukee. It may have been before the All-Star break, but it was earlier than a lot of us expected them to do it, and it ended up helping Milwaukee make a wild card run.
Yeah.
But it's rare to see that happen before well before the deadline. This far away from the deadline.
Now here's the only thing that you may be onto, okay, that may make early deals happen this year is there are a number of teams right now that know they're out of it. Okay, so they're going to be sellers.
Yep.
In some years, there are teams that are wow, should we sell or should we stay in the race? Can we get hot? But it's pretty definitive right now. There are a lot of teams that know that they are out of it, okay? That in fact, they are way out of it, and that they can sell. I mean, the Orioles know they are going to have a historically bad year, okay? And, I mean, they'll struggle to win 50 games.
Yeah.
I mean, they're on pace to win only like 47 games on the year. So they know right now. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to make a deal with them, you might, and they have targets on their roster that you want, why not go get them? I don't think there's any deliberation there. And I think the Orioles are saying, we're open for business.
Yeah, we've got Machado, we've got Jones, Britton, the closer, who I know has been hurt, but there are players there that are going to be desirable, and they want to retool their farm system. One more thing I want to bring up with you. It has nothing to do with baseball. Actually, a real quick note. I hope people watched Donovan Live. Congrats to our buddy, the longtime, now retired Akron Beacon Journal Indians beat writer, Sheldon Ocker. He is on his way to Cooperstown this summer as a Hall of Famer. Great to hear kind of the two of you talk about Indians memories together.
He's a great guy. And when I was, when Channel 3 had the package that we were doing 20 games a year, and I was doing the games, I ended up traveling with Sheldon a lot because when I would fly in to do a game, typically, we would be on the same flights. And so, I spent a lot of time with him, and he did a lot of shows with us when we were doing, Indian shows and pregame shows and things like that. And he was really a funny guy. He really is. 33 years on the job. Now, he told the story about Manny Ramirez asking him for $60,000, a $60,000 loan in the clubhouse one day. And I don't know if we get to tell you, why did Manny want the $60,000? Because he was good friends with Julian Tavares, remember?
Yes.
The relief pitcher? And they were good buddies, and the two of them wanted to buy Harley Davidson
motorcycles.
Now, there are two things wrong there. Number one, asking a writer for $60,000. And second of all, in most major league players' contracts, and I'm sure in Manny's contract and Julian Tavares' contract, you cannot ride motorcycles during the season.
You have there are clauses to the contracts. There are things that you are not allowed to do.
Can I tell another story that he told me? And we'll have another visit with Sheldon the week of the Hall of Fame induction. He told the story about Len Barker's perfect game. And he was covering the perfect game. And I said to him, what was the game like? I mean, you're covering it, and the guy's pitching a perfect game. And in true Sheldon style, he said, it was kind of a dull game, other than the fact that he was pitching a perfect game. It wasn't a great game. The Indians, they scored. They kind of scratched out a couple of runs, and he was pitching a perfect game. So he pitches the perfect. He said the fun was after the game. The excitement, everybody rushing the field, and Barker. And he said he tracked down Lenny Barker in the old Indians clubhouse down at Municipal Stadium, which was a dump. And he's waiting to talk to Barker, and Barker is on the payphone. And remember, they had a payphone
in the clubhouse.
In the Indians clubhouse, okay? This was before the 455 consecutive sellouts, so you're paying if you're going to use the phone.
It's your dime.
He's on the phone with his grandmother, and he goes, Grandma, I pitched a perfect game. And the conversation continues, and Sheldon can't hear the grandmother's response. And Barker gets off, and he goes, okay, all right. I love you, thanks, and everything like that. He hangs up. And being the ever good, copious reporter that he was, he said, what did your grandmother say? That made you laugh? And he said, Barker said, well, you heard me. Hey, Grandma, I pitched a perfect game. And her response to him was, it's okay, honey. You'll do better the next start. He has a million stories.
Oh, yeah.
He has a million stories.
The fact that our buddy Tony Grossi was there that night, too, covering that game.
Not by mistake, but somebody was sick.
Somebody was sick.
Was it Rush Snyder?
It was. I think so. It was either Rush Snyder or Terry Pluto. But somebody was sick.
Yeah.
And Tony got to cover the game that night.
Yeah, he did. He really did. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It was like one of his first assignments?
First assignments at the Plain Dealer.
How about that?
Last thing I wanted to bring up with you. This was a question that was brought up by, we call him Phil in Akron, Phil Trexler, our investigative executive producer here at Channel 3. Came up to my desk today and said, hey, Dino, I got to ask you guys a question. Why doesn't any superstar in the NBA seemingly right now want to play with LeBron James?
I think it's because you're not a superstar anymore. I really do. I don't think you're a superstar anymore. I think you are a contributor. Yeah. And I think it takes. I really do. I think. Do I agree with Kyrie Irving in the team sense of things? No, yeah. I didn't agree with. I want my own team. And everything. Okay. But I don't think you are the same player that made you a superstar when you play with LeBron James. And I think it's taxing.
Yeah.
Playing with LeBron James.
That's what I said to Phil.
I think, Dino, it's more than on the court. I think it's there are a lot of people that are connected with LeBron that become team employees, and they're around the team a lot of time. And I think that then some petty jealousies come into effect of, well, why isn't my best friend? Right. Why do I have to sit in the back of the plane when all of his guys get to sit up front? I think that these guys have egos, and we know they have big egos. But I think in the basketball sense, I think you worry about your game. Well, all right, let me ask you this: Is Kevin Love the same kind of player
that he
was when he was with Minnesota.
No, that doesn't score as much. I mean, he had to completely change what the kind of player he was to, quote, fit in. Remember all that first year? To fit in, fit out with LeBron and the Cavs.
Yeah.
And it took him the better part of, I think, that first year and really into the second year to feel like, okay, there's a place for me on this team. In the last 2 years, he's been an all-star, but he's had to be a much different player.
Chris Bosh, it took him probably a year and a half before he really felt comfortable and knew how to play with LeBron, but more importantly, learned how to not be the guy.
Right.
Because he was the guy up in Toronto.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot that goes along with it.
Because it's interesting, you know, Jason Lloyd and Joe Vardon and Dave McMenamin did a podcast. They were on over on 92.3 The Fan, did an afternoon with Bull and Fox and talked about a lot of this stuff, and that, you know, the fact that Irving really, number one, he didn't want LeBron. He was not a fan from day one. And I always got the sense of that too, that, you know, when he signed that long-term deal, it is because the Cavs were his team, and the Cavs were going to be a team that was going to be continuing to climb under his leadership and his supervision as the guy. But he wanted to leave after they won the championship in 2016. Didn't ask for the trade, then waited until after 2017 to ask for the trade. And then you had, as the free agency sweepstakes was happening 2 weeks ago, I mean, everybody thought Paul George was going to follow LeBron to Los Angeles. Didn't happen. Suddenly, everything's all quiet on the Kawhi Leonard front. And you sit there and you go, well, does nobody want to play with the best player in the world?
I think you have to take a seat in the second row when you play alongside of him. And the other thing is that, you know, he's not just a player on any team. I mean, he's a coach. He's a general manager.
And that's what differentiates him from Steph Curry and the super team in Golden State. You don't have that. I mean, Draymond Green tries to act like it, but you don't have that extra stuff playing with Steph Curry or Kevin Durant.
Yeah. I just think that in some ways you have to be willing to sacrifice some of your identity.
Yeah.
You have to sacrifice, I think. Now, some people will say, well, no, he will give you statistics. You know, I don't know. I think sometimes a really great player is saying, I'm going to get I know how to get my statistics my own way.
Right.
You know, I don't need the no-look pass and all that. I mean, I can get it. I can get my stuff my own way because that's what made me, you know, a great player in the NBA. So I think that there's a lot that goes into the stew.
Yes.
With LeBron James, both on the floor and off the floor. And I think there's some guys say, you know, I don't know, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
We'll keep an eye on that as we go forward here. But it was interesting that Phil brought it up. I wanted to bring it up with Jimmy here tonight. Thank you for all your questions. Great stuff tonight from everybody. We'll be back tomorrow night for another edition of the Donovan Live Postgame Show. For David Herberton and Jim Donovan, I'm Dave DiNatale. Thanks for watching right here on WKYC's Facebook Live.